Hi and welcome to this video. We have a brand new game from the US Chess Championship. Now, we haven't seen many games by Hikaru Nakamura, and that's because he hasn't been doing too well. He has been drawing all his games so far. Now in this game he had the white pieces against Awonder LIang, and Awonder is a wonder, a young talented kid, and he has played all the top 3 in the tournament so far and not lost a single game. He did lose against Akobian with a bad blunder, but other than that he has played very good chess, solid chess, and you have to do that to draw against the top 3. Now he did win against Nakamura in the Pro Chess League, so this is somebody to really look out for. And this kid, he came to the Reykjavik Open for 3 straight years, and every year he came, back stronger, like 100, 200 points higher. So it's been fun to watch him grow. And yeah, I think the sky's virtually the limit, but let's see what Nakamura did. Struggling after drawing in the first 3 games, he opened with knight f3. Seems like he wanted to avoid, lower the volume of the moves. He wanted to avoid any big theoretical battle, and he goes for g3, and we will quickly see a King's Indian attack. And this is something that Nakamura plays a lot in online games, faster games, so he has a lot of experience with these lines, with these structures, but it's not a very critical try, but it's something that's playable apparently at all levels. So let's see, bishop e7, castles, d5. Black is employing perhaps, okay, white is still flexible, he can still play d4 and c4. And then we will have what is called the Catalan opening. So black is sort of waiting for Nakamura to reveal his hand, but once he plays d3, it's a King's Indian attack. Black castles and knight b to d2, c5 and e4. And I've had this position with black, rarely with white, but on some occasions. But that's because white can play this against the French defense, with the first move being e4, second move e6, and very often play evolves exactly like in this game, even though we started with knight f3. So it's a flexible system, and you can reach it with many move orders and many openings. So we have normal moves here: knight c6, rook to e1, the most common move, b5, also the most common move. So we're going down well-known paths here: knight to d7. Black is expanding on the queen side, so these pawns here, and maybe this one will follow, and black will play for something to happen on the queen side. Meanwhile, white is preparing operations on the king side, and this move knight f1 does that. The idea is to free the diagonal for the bishop. Often it goes to f4, and this knight re-emerges most usually via the h2 square, but sometimes the e3 square as well, ending up on g4. So we see normal play: bishop to b7, a5 is the most common move, but bishop b7, h4. So white is playing in a very formulatic way, I think that's the word. So this is what white usually, if you get somebody playing the King's Indian attack and you play the French, he will play these moves almost automatically. Queen c7, bishop to f4, and then curiously this was the first moment that Nakamura thought in the game, but bishop f4 looks like the automatic move. Now rook f to c8, and I mentioned that the knight most often goes via this route, but here Nakamura went with knight to e3, and this gives white an extra option, which we will see if we make a move for black, which wasn't made in the game. If you play a logical move like a5, you want to expand, but this meets with a nice tactical trap that you have to be aware of on both sides of the King's Indian attack, because white can take this pawn here on d5. Why can he do that? It's a double attack. Once you take the knight, e6 opens up an attack on the queen, and we can take the knight on d7 next. And this has opened up the position to the benefit of white. You can't play knight e5, I take it. So maybe here. And now, especially this piece has is going to become a beast. We can play even king here, put the bishop here. Knight e5, rook on the open file. Great position for white. So that explains why Awonder played queen to d8. So he's getting out of this threat here. Okay, and rook c8 was also nice, because first he put the rook on c8 and then the queen back. So it's not in the way of the rook. You want the rooks on the queen side because you want to expand there. Okay, c3 by Nakamura. And a5, logical play. Like I said, black is operating on the queen side, white on the king side. Bishop to f8. This is to shore up the eventual h6. White will at some point play h5, and he did so here. And usually you prefer to play h6 here. If you let the white play h6, you play g6, you become, it's also possible, but you can't become weak on the dark squares. So usually black prefers to defend in this way. And then we need the bishop on f8. Why? Because quite often white wants to sacrifice here. And from here on out, well, for a couple of moves at least, black always had to deal with the idea of white sacrificing here on h6. He played b4. And already here it's a possibility. Nakamura played c4, but bishop takes h6. It's probably not going to lead to an advantage for white, and most likely black is better. But white has some conversation. Let's say something like this, and now I think you have to take on h6. Queen takes, queen f8, probably queen f4. So white would have 2 pawns for the piece. Probably not enough, but it's not completely clear. I mean, black has to defend, but in the end I think the material should count here. So Nakamura did not go for this. But I'm sure he thought about it, because those ideas are always thematic in these lines. So c4, yeah. I should mention that the King's Indian attack has been a favorite opening of many players, and we can mention that Bobby Fischer liked to play the King's Indian attack, and you can find some very interesting games he played in this opening. I'm sure I will cover some of his more historic games at a later stage on my channel. So okay, 97. This prepares to shore up the king side with knight f5 at some stage. Again, threatening is an option, but taking is an option, but it's probably similar as in the line before. Small compensation, but probably not enough. But now knight h4, preventing knight f5. And Liang plays rook a7. Kind of a flexible move, maybe in the future this rook will help along the 7th rank. And okay, you protect the bishop. Now you introduce the idea of taking on c4 at some point, or playing d4, and your bishop is not unprotected. And also at some stage you might double on some file. It's not clear which one, but rook a7, very flexible move. Rook a to d1 and a4. White doesn't have to worry about these pawns really, because whichever pawn moves forward, you will counter by moving the opposite pawn, and you will close the queen side. So it seems like the tension is going to be here in the center, revolving around this d5 pawn. So knight e3. It looks like Nakamura is abandoning any idea of sacrificing on h6 at this point. Knight b6 from Liang. Increasing the pressure on c4. Also clearing the d file at some stage. Like we mentioned, the rooks could be doubled. Or put the rook in front of the queen. Queen to e2. King h8. Looks like a very, very prophylactic move. But at this stage, it's clear that black is just waiting to see what white has in mind. And it's not easy to find any plan for white at this stage. And Nakamura played knight f3. Now knight c6. And black has a very solid position. I mean, Nakamura hasn't started really any attack. So this is all very solid. And now black is threatening to start to do something in the center of the board. Rook c1. And now b3. Okay. Nakamura takes, at least then he can think about capturing this pawn at some stage, but also you give up the a file, which could be a problem in some cases, but queen d1 now, so he wants to win this pawn. Here an interesting option was to play something like knight b4. We're sort of eyeing this, maybe takes, and knight d3 is a threat now, and queen takes b3, bishop c6 to a4. The queen starts to feel the draft a little bit. And after bishop a4, you might even be winning some material for black. So white has to be careful. It seems like after knight to d4, white is getting off the hook. Probably black was slightly better before that. But now after c takes d5. Knight takes d5. Nakamura took on d4. And Liang took on f4. So big exchanges in the center. What's going on? Yeah, they keep capturing. And now knight c4. A very nice knight. And perhaps white can hope for something if black were to take on g2. Then this knight would be a very strong piece, and we can start thinking about collecting some of these weaknesses. But Awonder played bishop to d5. Very nice move. Now everything is more or less under control here for black. If white goes pawn hunting, say like this, then maybe the queen starts to enter, and we're eyeing some weak pawns here. So Nakamura decided to take on d5 and initiate some trades with knight to d6. And he actually offered the draw here, which Awonder accepted. And it looks like they're correct in their assessment. There doesn't seem to be much, let's say, let's get the variation color, of course. Let's say black takes here. And plays rook d7. This pawn is going to drop. And actually, if anyone can play on, it's black. But let's say something like this. Rook e8, jack, king h7. Okay. And I think this will liquidate. I think both kings are too exposed for anybody to try anything really. And yeah, draw is the most likely outcome here. So after knight to d6, the draw was agreed. So very well done indeed by Awonder LIang. 3 draws against Nakamura, So and Caruana. That's nothing to sneeze at. And it will be interesting now that he has finished, well, basically playing against all the top players in the tournament. Can he start racking up some wins and finish off on a high note? It will be interesting to watch. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye bye.